30% more short-term rentals on the market since 2020. You might be an Airbnb host who's struggling to stand out in an increasingly crowded market. And maybe you're finding it harder to maintain high occupancy rates and profit. And this might not be due to fluctuating demand, but this might be due to regulations and restrictions of short-term rentals. Cities such as Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Dallas, and Oahu, Hawaii entirely ban or severely restrict short-term rentals. Well, what if I told you that there's a strategy that you can use to help you navigate these challenges and even attract a different type of guest? In this video, we're going to explore how midterm rentals can be a game-changing strategy for Airbnb hosts. We'll cover everything from what midterm rentals are, their pros and cons, and how you can employ this strategy to boost your occupancy rates and profit. So, if you are ready to take your Airbnb game to the next level, stay tuned for today's video. Let's start by defining what a midterm rental is and what kind of guests stay in midterm rentals. A midterm rental hosts stays that are between 1 month and 1 year, and usually less than a year. Industry experts say that most midterm stays are between 3 and 9 months. Midterm rentals, like short-term rentals, are also furnished, and they provide at least the basic amenities like Wi-Fi, furniture, basic kitchen supplies, and linen. Hosts of midterm rentals can typically expect these type of guests: students, interns, traveling professionals, including digital nomads, healthcare professionals, and other professionals who have to travel for their job. And midterm rentals are places where people who are in between homes will stay. As a result, midterm rentals are the types of stays that have some qualities of short-term rentals as well as long-term rentals. So let's talk about the type of benefits that you can expect as a midterm rental host. The first is a consistent stream of income. Like long-term rentals, they tend to have more consistent and predictable income for hosts. An income framework that I recommend using to understand how much income you can expect from a midterm rental is twice the rent of a long-term rental. So for example, if you have a 2-bedroom home that typically rents for about $2,000 as a long-term rental, well, you can rent that for about $4,000 as a midterm rental. And then that's compared to 3 times the return that you can expect to get as a short-term rental, which would be $6,000 gross for a 2-bedroom home. In addition to higher income from long-term rentals, midterm rentals are less susceptible to seasonality because midterm guests are traveling for reasons outside of vacationing, and they're staying for longer periods of time, since on average tenancy for a midterm guest is 3 to 9 months. And given this type of occupancy, it would only take 4 guests in the course of an entire year who stay 3 months to have 100% occupancy. Compare that to short-term rentals, which fluctuate based on the season as well as the quality of the home and the location. For example, on average, any one of my 4 listings will see about 70 to 80% occupancy, but some months are as low as 50%. A third benefit of midterm rentals is that there's less work involved to manage the guest. Since hosts will have fewer guests per year, this will mean less time communicating with guests and usually fewer messages to the guest, because you're not having to remind them of check-in and check-out times and other things about your home. You can give them check-in instructions and then a message to let them know about what they can expect during their stay, and that's it. Another benefit to midterm rentals is lower operating costs. You're doing far less cleanings in a midterm rental. You're usually buying less supplies like coffee and tea, and guests are usually providing their own common use amenities like toilet paper and paper towels, so you're not having to bear the brunt of those costs. What you can do is you can give your midterm guests a starter pack. Give them a pack of toilet paper, a couple of paper towels, and some other amenities to just get them started, and then as those need replacing, they can pay for those on their own. And instead of paying the cost of cleaning your home multiple times a week, you can clean your home about once every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever you desire as a midterm host. But you won't have to have as frequent cleaning as you would because you're hosting only one guest and they're staying for such a long amount of time. And you can also negotiate these additional cleanings when you book your guest. So I've gone over some of the pros of a midterm rental, but are they great for everybody? Or is there any downside to a midterm rental? Let's talk about that next. One thing to consider before becoming a midterm rental host is that it's a bit more work to find and screen guests. While there are millions of people on sites like Airbnb and VRBO that are looking to stay for 2 or 3 days, there are fewer and less well-known websites that have guests looking for midterm stays. So you may have to put in additional resources into marketing your place and talking to people who know people who are looking for a longer term stay. Additionally, because they're staying for longer, you'll want to put additional screening in place to make sure that you find the right guest for your home. And you're going to need more stringent criteria and even an application and perhaps an interview to make sure that you find someone that is the right fit for you. And given that they're staying for a longer period of time, you may want to collect a security deposit to make sure that they don't cause any additional damage to your home. And if they do, you have the funds to pay for it. Another potential con of a midterm rental is that they make less money than short-term rentals. They make about twice what a long-term home would get, and that's because you are not charging as much as a short-term rental. So if you normally charge about $150 a night for a short-term rental, you might be charging $100 a night for a midterm rental. And you're usually offering discounts for the longer term of the stay. And depending on your costs and your mortgage, this may or may not be enough to make a profit. So that's definitely something to consider. One other con, and I've experienced this myself, is that your home gets more wear and tear. And that's because a midterm guest is usually spending more time in the home, using all of the furnishing as well as the amenities, and they're just getting more wear and tear. So your blankets may get more use, your rugs may get worn down, things may get more dirty. It's just going to be more work for you to maintain the home in between guests. And this is also why you want to be sure to screen your guests very, very carefully. If they normally don't take care of their home or they are very dirty, they're going to treat your home just like that. So this means that you may have to replace some of these items sooner than you normally would for a short-term rental, because short-term rental guests are usually, they're on vacation, so they're usually out and about and they're spending less time in the home than a midterm guest. Another con is that you don't get the tax advantages of a short-term rental when you rent out your home on a midterm basis. There's a provision within the tax law that allows hosts of short-term rentals to have big deductions against their active income if they host stays of 7 days or less and they manage the property. You will not get this tax advantage if you host midterm stays. Why? Because you don't meet that first threshold of 7 days or fewer on average. Another potential issue that you would want to think through before going down the route of midterm rentals is that guests of midterm stays can get tenant rights based on the laws of your state and the provisions of your county and even your city. Because all of these laws and regulations vary by state and they vary by the length of time that a person is staying in your home, they may or may not get rights that can keep them from getting evicted, or it requires certain notice before notice to vacate, and you may need to go through due process in case something happens when you have a midterm guest staying in your home. So if you decide to pursue this strategy, it is incredibly important that you know what your rights are as a landlord, because those are going to be the same things that apply when you host guests for a midterm stay. And you'll want to know what your state requires, what your county requires, as well as your city. Okay, the next things that you'll need to do if you decide to pursue this strategy is you'll need to create a lease that follows all of the requirements of your state. And that lease should include a few things: the length of stay, whether there's a security deposit and how much and what it covers, what amenities are included, and what tenant and landlord rights apply. The next thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to develop a screening process for your guests. You may want to look at their credit score, their income, their employment and rental history, and maybe even do things like an interview, require an application, and require a non-refundable application fee. I also highly recommend that you conduct a background check for each of your guests that are staying for midterm. And what you may also want to do is take video of your home and have that be a virtual tour to give guests a sense of what your home is like, and even let them come for a viewing of the home. Okay. How to find these guests. These include Furnished Finder and Corporate Housing by Owner. Airbnb also lets you find guests who are looking to stay for 28 days or more, but these other sites I would highly recommend because they've got a whole economy of guests that are looking for long-term stays. You may also want to connect with local employers at a hospital or a college to let them know of your available place. If midterm rentals are something that you're interested in but not ready to commit to full-time, stay tuned for an upcoming video on how you can blend short-term and midterm rentals to really juice your cash flow and keep your occupancy rates really, really low during the slow months. If you're interested in becoming an Airbnb host, consider signing up on my link down below to sign up as an Airbnb host, and I can be your ambassador and I can review your listing and give you direct feedback. To furnish your Airbnb like a pro, also look down below for a list of all of my recommended furnishing and amenities that are sure to get you great reviews and last a really long time. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.